Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to View with Mike G, the show of Gainesville, Texas, the music industry falling apart in the early 2000s, San Marcos, Lubbock, lots of different things. Today, with the founder of Tequila 512, Mr. Scott Willis. On Monday, I got to share two great tequila tales, one of Mr. David Soro with the Siembra Vales Ancestral, brilliant, delicious new tequila coming out of Siembra Spirits, and then a chat with the legend himself, Mr. Carlos Camarena. Now, the thing is, why would anybody get mixed up in this world of distilled spirits, this boozy endeavor? There's so much regulation. There's so many challenges in the market, personality challenges, all of this. Well, I'd like to say that it's the entrepreneurial spirit and getting to sit down and chat with Scott, who I've known for a few years now. It's great to see how this story unfolded. How did it start? How does somebody get into tequila? How does someone get into the booze industry? Well, short answer is it starts all with a discussion forum and a random post asking if anybody wants to start a tequila company. So in the spirits of grassroots and local products, local booze, I hope you guys enjoyed this chat with Mr. Scott Willis of Tequila 512.
You can go to the Distillers Institute and do like a 2-day course.
Yeah,
and they'll
exactly.
teach you paperwork and labeling and all that. And then when I did it, and I'm sure when you were doing yours, all that wasn't there. And so it was just like,
None of it.
no one wanted to talk to you. And
Yeah.
so you're like calling people that aren't returning phone calls, and you do talk to the random person who says, don't do it.
Right.
And, don't get into this business. And so it's like, you really got to want it.
Dude, you gotta really want it. It's the same thing with any art, honestly. Now, alcohol doesn't always have to be that way, but music's the same kind of thing. If you're gonna make it in music, you're gonna have to play it every night.
Right.
You're gonna have to rough it. You're probably gonna sleep on some floors. It's the same kind of thing. But now, you've been doing this over, let's say, 4 years. Probably
4 years November that we've had product in the States.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which is, that's incredible. And we're now in the new casa, which is, these floors are incredible. You're on basically First Street, so in the heart of Austin. How long you guys been in this spot now?
We've only been here for maybe 2 months, maybe going on 3 months. So we've been just finishing it out and kind of getting in here, and finally got the pool ready.
Yeah.
And it gets cold, but whatever. We'll swim. We may do a polar bear dip here and wait till it gets really cold.
Yeah, well, it's still going to be like
company
80s this week, so we're probably okay.
Yeah. The water feels like Barton Springs cold right now. But we got in here and really tried to push forward the company culture of flip-flops and shorts and that whole idea of South First. Being in a warehouse, it's hard to get that vibe, but we can do it here.
It gets hot, so this is actually really comfortable in here.
Oh yeah,
it's killer. So can we say that you being in this new location now affirms a new chapter of expansion, a new level of success for Tequila 512, or is it all just LA in it, man?
Yeah,
Bake it till you bake it.
Yeah, the success part. That question is interesting. I was telling about this other interview I did recently to you, and he asked a question about success, and it's like, man, and you know this too from the business, but success is that first bottle on that first retail store. Then immediately after, that's not successful anymore, because then you got to be on another one, and then you got another one. The first menu you're on, I'm successul. Wait a minute, now I want to be on more menu.
Now I need another.
So the carrot's always out there.
Totally. Yeah.
So when people say that, you feel like you're successful. I'm more successful now than I was a year ago.
Right.
And then a year before that, I was more successful than the year before that. But do I feel like we're successful? No, not until everyone that wants tequila thinks about us at least for a second and thinks,
and then it's probably not even enough then.
Right.
Because that's the problem is as an artist, or as you have this business, it's like, okay, cool. Everybody's got the product. Great. They know me. They know you. We've got a good reputation. Yeah. We're in 30 states. Cool. I'm driving a nice car. Cool. This all right. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Right? Does it feel like that?
If you think about I always think about, again, to reference Tito, but I think about him and I go home. I'm from a small town in Texas, and I'll go home and talk to friends, and I'll reference Tito, assuming everybody knows Tito and Tito's vodka. Right. And some of them, never fails. Someone will go, never heard of that vodka. So that just shows you, even at selling 3 million cases a year, whatever he's at, it's like you're still never just like this. You know, what you want to be is you want to be on top of everyone's mind and think of that kind of product,
right?
At least where they've heard of it or something, right? But even at his size, you're still not, which makes you really realize that you're not really ever going to be there.
Yeah, and does it even matter?
No,
is
it really
maybe really
matter.
a test of just making sure you can be content about things?
But if I feel like kind of like if you don't want that, you may not continue pushing. You know, like if you get content. You know, Tito said once, I just want to sell enough where I can go to Barton Springs 2 or 3 days a week and hang out. Well, he's obviously surpassed that goal.
Sure.
But I feel like if that's your goal, then you're going to be satisfied with just owning a market. Like, okay, we own Austin. Good. Yeah. We're fine, right? But if you want more than that, it should never be enough. It should always be like, well, now we want Dallas. Now we want all of Texas. Now we want other states. You know, that I feel like that should be the goal if you want to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's when is it enough, I guess, is the question, you know?
Because it sounds really greedy.
It's not, but it's not even egotistical. I think it's just we're as people, as like entrepreneurs, maybe what makes us get along, because we didn't even have to really talk much before we realized like, yeah, we're going through the same stuff. We're cool. We can go and we can relate immediately. You know, maybe it's just that the world is not enough. You know, maybe it's so one product successful, great. Well, here's another. Yeah, but we can do this third one, which I mean, in your case, you guys are doing the Anejo.
We've got 3 now. Yeah. Finally have the 3. And I don't even, we've discussed maybe doing some special. I was laying in bed last night thinking about maybe like putting just like 2 barrels back from this last batch we're aging and just leaving it and just waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, go just see how long we can let it sit. Yeah. Just for something down the road.
It's so cool. And we'll talk about tequila because that's a really epic chapter for you. And there are a lot of trends and a couple of things I wanted to talk about with tequila specifically because, dude, we're in a great place in Texas. We're right next door. The hospitality kind of flows into Texas too, you know, so you feel that like kindredness, I guess, with the Mexican spirits. Yeah. But okay, so small town Texas guy. Mm-hmm. What are we talking? Which city?
Gainesville, Texas. Gainesville. Hour north of Dallas. So the intersection of Interstate 35 and Highway 82. So the 2 highways, one goes from Canada to Mexico and one goes from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Oh, interesting.
We're in the interchange of those 2 highways, right in the Red River.
So incredibly cultured, right? Know lots about Canada.
Yes. Incredibly cultured if you like just one culture. Yeah.
Sometimes it fits right. But
very small town Texas.
What do you do for you? You're a tall guy. Were you into sports? Were you into music?
No, I was really just into music. I was into music, and then I was into. It sounds like the cliche of like I can't wait till I'm old enough to get out of this town kind of thing, you know.
But I think it was very appropriate there.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to kind of get out, and I was into music, and frankly, like I went to Texas. I went to junior college first for a year. Okay. I didn't know where I wanted to go.
Where, like Dallas Community, Fort Worth, or
North Central Texas Community College.
No idea
in Gainesville.
It's
in Gainesville. I didn't have to go anywhere. So I did that, and then honestly, I chose my college based on a party. So a friend of mine went to Texas Tech, and he was a Fiji out there. And he's like, hey, he invited myself and another friend. He said, come down for the weekend. We have a big party going on. So we went down for a Fiji Islander. And it's the biggest party I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, I'm from a small town. We did bonfires and fields. This was like a full
Natty Light,
party.
Lots of bonfires.
Yeah, exactly. Natty Light. And so we went to this party, and I was like, I'm going here. It was so much fun. Yeah. That's how I chose my college.
Well, it's good. It's like a dart on a board. It's the same thing.
Yeah, so I went down, and I did the whole rush thing and got a fraternity, and then I just spent 4 years trying to figure out what I wanted my major to be, and I honestly chose a major when the business school called me and made me pick one. I was at like 80 hours and I picked a major.
Oh, really?
And the business school called me or actually sent me a letter and they said, you can't register until you choose a major. You've got too many hours.
Make up your mind, Scott.
Yeah. I went in and I literally talked to the counselor and I said, okay, with the hours I have, what will get me out of here in the 4 years, like where I could finish? And she said, well, you can do business management or marketing or general business. And well, marketing sounds fun. Sure, I picked marketing. That's literally how I chose it.
But like, for example, what's your dad do?
My dad worked at Peterbilt Trucks for 20 some odd years. My mom was a county clerk at the county courthouse.
So it's like, where does
I was the first college graduate in my family.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Right.
You have any brothers or sisters?
I have a sister. She still lives in Gainesville. Yeah. Cousins all still live in Gainesville. Aunts and uncles all live in Gainesville.
You're the success.
I got out.
You left because of a party.
Again, success is, who knows, but
sure, it's in quote. We'll air quote.
Air quotes, right? Like my sister, we used to say my sister like lives in the country. Yeah. And like a little kind of, my wife used to call it a portable home or trailer house because it's not really a trailer, but it's what you would call that type of home. Mm-hmm. She's happy she could be. Loves her husband, been married 20 years,
Wow.
has 3 beautiful kids, loves her life. And so for me, that wasn't good enough. My wife's always reminds me, she's always like, she's happy. So what's success? Like, she's successful in her mind. She's happy.
Content.
I wouldn't have been happy there.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to leave and do what I'm doing now to be happy.
Yeah.
So,
So they made you do it. Marketing seems to make some sense. You watch a couple episodes of Mad Men.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even really understand marketing. And still today, people don't really understand what marketing really means, how it's different than advertising. It's
and it's different now, given all of the disposable technology that we have.
Yeah.
You can run your own marketing really with your phone in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's totally changed. But so you emerge from school. What year did you graduate from?
Graduated in 1999.
99. And so you got a marketing degree.
I had a marketing degree, and I knew it was going to happen. And I knew that I was just going to get a job at a company in probably sales. I just figured that was going to happen. So I got a sales job in Dallas. Hated it. I was in Dallas. I was wearing a tie to work every day. I didn't like the culture. Not a knock on Dallas. It's maybe more on where I was at the time. I was young. I was just out of school. I was used to having 30, 40, 50 friends around, lots of party and all that, and ripped from that and plopped in an apartment in Dallas, essentially with just 1 or 2 friends that I knew that had moved there, and a job with a tie every day on, wasn't making a lot of money.
Not real riveting stuff.
No, I mean, I wasn't a cubicle, but it was, it was just that kind of life. And then I was coming to Austin almost every weekend at that point.
Really?
Visiting a buddy here, and I just loved it here. And
what did you guys do when you come out?
Back then you'd go on 6th Street and not get beat up. But we used to go to, Dirty Six and all that. Was in my 20s, So we'd hit 6th Street and party, and the warehouse district was non-existent really. And those were parking lots, if you remember back then. You'd park over there and walk to bars. Now those are where the bars are.
That's right,
yeah. We would just go out and party. And I remember thinking, like, one of the first times I came, we were going to some bar, and I said, what's the dress code? So I'm coming from Dallas.
Yeah.
And he just laughed. He's like, dress code. You're in Austin. There's no dress code in Austin. And that was the kind of idea that I fell in love with, that idea that you could go out in flip-flops and shorts and T-shirts and really be comfortable anywhere, which is what I loved about this city. And I remember coming down here and seeing the story I tell is like going to Waterloo Records and seeing like the Porsche pull up, and the guy gets out. He's in a Cap 10K shirt, torn up shorts and flip-flops.
Yep.
I'm like, that's the opposite of what I was seeing in Dallas. I was seeing guys in Dallas that would get out in like $1,000 suit in the Porsche, but they're probably living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, because it was all about image. Whereas here it seemed less about, I bought the car to show off, as opposed to I bought the car because I had the money to buy the car.
Right.
And I like the car, I like fast cars, so I bought it. But I don't really care what I'm wearing, a T-shirt and shorts, and I'm going into Waterloo to buy some CDs.
So then I guess it's a great point, because that is really one of the wonderful things about Austin culture, is that we're just doing our thing.
Right.
Now it's changed, and you've been here long
It's
enough to kind of
changed.
see it change.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not gonna bemoan that. I don't care. It's fine. Like, change.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of
a whole bunch of it.
Austin was cool whenever I got here. It's my favorite quote from people. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
The golden era of Austin.
Right.
Which is completely objective and proprietary to when you arrived.
Right.
That was the best possible. Right. I mean, dude,
it was really, when I got here, Austin was really cool. Trust me. You got here about when I did, I think.
I think 2000 about for me.
Yeah, that's roughly, yeah. So we're about the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and I kind of interested about. So where, like, this free spiritedness, your parents were working, they have careers. So when you come into the mix and you kind of want to be a professional, where did the desire, the passion to be free spirited come from? You see how it kind of feels counterintuitive coming from a small town and stuff?
Yeah, I don't even know really. I've got this question all the time. My wife asked me this when we're getting deep thoughts on our back porch late night with whiskey in hand, and we're having these conversations like, why did you want to leave? Why did you? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I've always wanted to.
Was it music? I mean, is that something that kind
of? Well, I did come here for music, right? Yeah. And I moved here. I wanted to be in the music business. I can't play an instrument or sing or anything, but I wanted to manage bands. I wanted to book bands and manage bands. So I went to college with Pat Green.
Okay.
We weren't friends, but he was in school when I was there. And Corey Moore was there when I was there. And so that kind of scene, that scene was kind of coming up when I was there. Pat released his first album. There was kind of like the second wave after Robert Earl. The second group was Corey and Pat and those guys. And they were a lot of them were in Lubbock. And so I just emailed. I was in Dallas. I was hating it. I emailed his manager through patgreen.com. I found his manager, emailed him and said, I want a job in the music business. Here's my resume. I went to Tech. Pat won't know me, but we have some mutual friends, whatever. He emailed me back and he said, you know what? I'm actually growing my company and I may have a job for you.
Really?
And I said, great. And so I quit my job and I moved to Austin. I met him in the Omni Hotel at his office in downtown Austin. And he said, okay, this is February. He said, okay, or January, February. And he says, okay, I got a job for you, but it's not till this summer. I'm like, okay, I got rent. I got car payments.
Yeah.
He goes, well, Pat's website guy could use an extra hand for a few $100 a week.
Yeah.
I went, okay, great. I don't know web design. So I go over there and start working with him. And at this point now, I'm doing web design, learning web design. We're doing Pat Green, some stuff for Willie and some other things. I'm going out to shows, taking pictures for the website. So I'm like kind of living this. It's kind of cool.
It's a lifestyle, yeah.
But I had no money. And so then I got a second job as a door guy at a live music venue on West Campus.
Which venue was it?
It's called Mangoes. It's torn down now.
I think I remember that place.
It's torn down.
Yeah.
They were doing the Texas country thing there.
Yeah,
so Ray Wiley Hubbard, like random people would come through there. Really good acts, actually. But no one ever came. It was always empty.
Right.
And so I'm the door guy there, and I'm daytime doing websites, and I'm sleeping like 3 hours a night, and I'm killing myself.
With a college degree,
With a college degree, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to make this music thing's going to work, right? And then reality set in, and my roommate worked at Dell, and he was like, look, they're hiring. At the time, Dell was just like the ubiquitous. I mean, they were.
Totally, yeah.
The joke was we weren't selling computers; we were just taking orders. That's how it was back then, right? And then I sent my resume over and got a job at Dell, and that kind of pulled me out of what I came here to do, which was kind of this making people happy lifestyle, like whether it's food or music or drink or whatever. I came here to do some fun stuff. Yeah. Now I'm back in the corporate world. But, Dell back then, they were paying well. We were making good money.
Well, yeah, it's all the money piece is good.
Yeah.
Did the opportunity in the summer come up again?
Once I started at Dell, it just kind of faded away. And then some things changed with his company because Pat got big. And when you get big, you hire a bigger manager. And all those things kind of changed on his end. And then those opportunities really closed off for me. Yeah. And so I just kind of settled into Dell and settled into making decent money. Or at the time, I thought it was big money, when you're 20-something years old. And then,
I bet it's better than sleeping on couches.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I was there, and I stayed there for several years, almost 4 years. And then I got offered a job at Apple. And Apple, at the time, it was right before iTunes came out.
Yeah.
And they were snatching up Dell people to come in and help the sales culture at the time. At the time, there wasn't as much of a sales culture. They were hiring educators and teachers and things, especially in the division I was in, which was K-12 sales and educational sales.
How old were you about at this point?
Gosh.
Is this mid-20s?
Yeah, mid-20s, 25, something like that. And then they were hiring up Dell people because we wanted to create a sales culture. Yeah. And so I go in there, and it's a lot of like ex-teachers and librarians and people that were doing their sales. And I was a true sales guy. I was a sales guy from Dell, and they wanted me to come in and, we need to sales up our group a little.
Right.
So I went to Apple, and I worked there for... I was only there for a little over a year, and then I got a field sales job for a publishing company, Thompson Publishing, and I left that.
What kind of publishing? Books, music?
Thompson Publishing was textbooks for colleges.
Oh, okay.
They were very large, very large. They were right behind Pearson Prentice Hall. I tell people when you were in college, some of the books you had were Thompson books. They had to have been because they were that big. So I did that. Thompson sold off their publishing arm and then renamed it something else, but I stayed on there. So I was there for 10 years doing that gig. I was doing that while I was
doing the beginning of
I was starting this company because I was field sales. So I could take my little laptop and go and log into a coffee shop in Norman, Oklahoma while I'm visiting colleges and bang out a business plan a little bit.
Perfect gig.
Go on the TBC website and learn how to do that stuff. Yeah, go on the TTB and learn labeling. I was teaching myself all of that while I was
got the bandwidth
in the field. Yeah.
Well, you weren't married at this point, right?
I was married, had a child, divorced, remarried, and have had 3 more children since then.
So 4 total now?
4 total, yeah.
You don't look old enough to have 4 kids, man.
And I feel old enough.
You're still smiling, right? You're coming into work, you got this casa, like I'm saying, a bunch of tequila and mixers on the wall.
Well, what's funny is like when you have children, and you don't have children yet.
No,
right?
I don't.
When you have children and you're in the liquor business, my guys do those things. They're doing the quote unquote fun stuff. The perks.
Yeah.
You get the VIP pass to the grand opening of something, right? They're there. They're going. I'm at home feeding kids, hanging out with the family.
Yeah.
Which I don't regret that. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I kind of did a lot of that early on, and now I let these guys do it, and they're
balance
taking advantage
is key,
of that.
Right?
Yeah.
And having had that phase maybe, and then
the idea of starting a liquor brand, and I don't know if you experienced this. In the beginning of it, it's how cool would it be if I owned my own liquor company? Right, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. And then you get into it, and then some of it becomes kind of a grind, and you realize that 80% of it, 90% of it is business. Yeah. It could be anything. Totally. You could be selling widgets. We could be selling these microphones, right? Yeah. That portion of it, the fun part, the liquor part, is the part you've really got to remind yourself, hey, we're selling tequila, we're selling gin, we're doing some pretty fun things, and you got to remind yourself that, because you can get bogged down in the TBC paperwork and just paying your rent and paying the utility bills and
it's all
those little things.
It is artful, and we kind of talked about that, but it is hard. It's a balance, and the fact that like you don't necessarily you're the face of this. I mean, if people Google you, they're going to see that this is your company. They'll see the smiling pictures of you and not realize you've been married twice, have 4 kids.
Yeah.
Dude, it totally
it's work.
And I can attribute a lot of the gray hair to that work.
Mine's coming in down here in the beard.
Still, you're way darker beard than me. I'm really envious about now. Yeah. But so we got to think here because, of course, tequila. And I'm trying to piece together, was it the food scene in Austin like it was for me that made you think about flavors and made you think about alcohol? Was it the good times? Like, why was tequila the piece that was on your radar?
Well, so when I had the idea to do this, I said the Tito's thing, right? I was inspired. I started talking to different people. A couple people in the business would talk to me early on. A guy from Hideous Liquor, Hideous Liquor, and I apologize, I forget his name, but I met him early on when I just had a nugget of an idea to do something in liquor. And he said something to me early on, which was like, whatever you do, make sure it's a spirit that you like to drink. And the joke was like, because you'll have a lot left over, it doesn't sell. You got to drink it, but also you got to be passionate about it. Because his point was, people see through that at some point, and you don't have to be an expert on spirit A or B or whatever, but you need to really be passionate enough about it, and you got to love it, right? And so I sat down and thought, okay, what do I drink? I drink Bloody Marys. I like vodka well enough. Yeah. But a couple of things with that is I saw from a business standpoint that the barriers to entry were nil. Yeah. And back then it was just Tito, but my prophecy proved true, because now, as you know, there's
so many.
Every city in the state of Texas has a handful of their own vodka distillers, right? Because there's no barriers to entry, and it could be made out of really anything. Sure. I'm not denigrating the vodka, and obviously there's good ones and bad ones.
We both know it's easier to make a vodka.
It is.
It simply is, yeah.
And so, getting into tequila, I saw there were more barriers to entry first off, and also I drank a lot of tequila. Yeah. And I didn't know as much about it when I started. I mean, I really had to educate myself on the product, because I wasn't from the industry. Yeah. I don't have a spirits background. Aside from the industry, I don't come from a family of all that.
I mean, it seems like almost a spontaneous idea.
So I had to really learn it. And I was buying books on tequila. I was like, back then, I'd go to Barnes and Noble and I'd buy a book on spirits, and it would be like a chapter on tequila or 2 pages on it, right? So I really had to dig and search for little nuggets and stuff online, and really find information to kind of piece together, like, okay, blue agave. Right. Okay, why is it blue agave? Okay, how many agave kind of types are there? How does it produce? What type of stills are used traditionally? I really started from ground level 10 years ago. And over the course of those 6 years before my product got here, I tried to verse myself as much as I could on the history of it, on the art of it, and then on the business side of it, which is obviously very important. And as I learned more about it, I was like, oh, wow. So not only do I like tequila, but now I'm really learning to love it based on what I'm learning about it and the history of it. And then in going out and buying bottles and bottles of it, back then I was trying all these different types and going, wow, there really are nuances and different tastes and different things going on. It's not just good tequila and bad tequila. Right. There's highlands and lowlands and peppery and sweet and spicy and earthy and all these things. And I really figured out, okay, I don't know why, but I like this one type. And then I figured out that, okay, this one type I like is from this area. This is the Tequila Valley. And I'm like, okay, well, why is that? And so I learned about that. And that's how I kind of zoned in on the area that I said, okay, this is where I want to go.
Because you like the flavor of it.
I like the flavor of it.
That's brilliant, yeah.
And I couldn't tell you why. I kind of worked backwards into it. I didn't go down there and saying, I want you to make me a tequila that tastes like this, this, and this. Right. I went, I know the flavor I want. I've got it in here. Yeah. And Luis Trejo is the master distiller there, and he at La Cofradía, where mine's produced, and he's been the guy I've worked with since the beginning. And through a translator, I was trying tequilas that they made, and double distill, triple distill. We even went up to 4, and they had a 4 and a 5 times. They just pulled out for me to try. And went through these different types and different filtration times, and I'm like, okay, I like this one. Yeah. And he told me, okay, well, the one you like is this, 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 and this. And I went, okay, bottle me some samples. That's what I want to have. That's what I want to produce. And then continue to learn. And I'm still learning.
Sure. Well, you have to. This industry changes so much.
I've got 2 employees in that room right there who could talk tequila for hours and hours and hours, and I'll pick up things from them and go, oh wow, okay, I didn't understand, I didn't know that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's so incredible. We're still learning.
So you took back what, like 2-3 bottles, and you
I had 2 liters.
Just thinking and just tasting and thinking and tasting and thinking. How far along were you in making this a legitimate business at that point?
No, nowhere at all. I started my LLC because I said, I know I got to have that.
Right.
Willis Importing LLC. How creative is that? So I started that, and just to have the paperwork in place, and that was easy to do. So I did the easiest thing first, and then I flew down to Guadalajara. I met a guy online. Sounds totally dirty. It was like, it wasn't Craigslist, but it was comparable to what a Craigslist would have been. But say 10 years ago, whatever that was. I
can't remember.
I found some online message board, and this guy had said, I'm looking to match up American business people with distilleries in Mexico. And the funny thing was, I'm like, I'm an American businessman. Like, it's silly. Like, I was like, I'm just going down to kind of
I'm a dude, right?
Play this out, right? Yeah. So my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, flew with me. We literally got off the plane in Guadalajara. There's a guy there, an older expat American with a sign that had my name written on it. And we got in his truck, old beat up pickup truck.
Yeah.
We sat 3 wide in his truck, and he drove us to our hotel to check in. And then he said, hop in, we're going to drive tequila and then go to these distilleries. And the key thing I told him was, I said, I don't want to go to one that just wants to put their juice in my bottle.
Right.
It was, first off, I didn't have a bottle. Yeah. I didn't have a name. This was the first step, was finding the tequila.
So it is officially a formed company, quote. So you are now a quote unquote
Willis Importing LLC.
Right? So you've got an entity.
Yeah.
So you go down, but it's like, I know what I want, but again, it's on my terms.
I knew nothing else. I didn't know what I was going to call it. I didn't have any money raised. I knew nothing. I was just like, let me go down there. This seems like the first step.
Sure.
And again, looking back on it, like now, as you're aware, we could sketch out a bottle design right now.
Yeah.
And I could pull up a database of distilleries and make a couple phone calls.
Yep.
And we could have, within a few months, we could have our own tequila brand here with their juice in the bottle.
Right.
No problem, right?
But that seems disingenuous.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I did it that way not to prove a point or not to be, I'm going to do this the right way.
Right.
I didn't know any better. I thought, well, of course, I got to have the tequila first, right? Because what am I going to call it if I don't even know what it tastes like? I was looking again from the Tito method, like, okay, I'm not making it myself. I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get as close to his idea as I can, which is something that I am the first person that tries it and likes it, and I want everyone else to try what I tried and say, I hope you like what I like, because this is what I like, right?
Sure.
And so that's what we did, and we got the bottles. He drove us around. We met Le Coffredilla, and Le Coffredilla was one of the few that would do private label at the time.
Okay.
And so they said, look, let's say private label, and then also any kind of flavor profiles you want. And they'll even do, you could choose, they own agave fields all around. You can choose their estate grown, or some agave fields they own other parts of the country. They can do different things
flavor
for you.
that you
want. Really can. Now, and I knew they were producing some award-winning stuff already. Casa Noble was a fantastic tequila they did, and they've now sold on to Constellation Brands. But I knew they were doing that one. And so I went there, and through the translator, we talked to Luis, and he said, we'll make whatever you want. Like, we'll distill it how you want it. We'll filter it how you want it. We'll do anything you want. And I went, okay, that's what I want. So we, without knowing pricing or knowing anything else, we just got these bottles, and we said, this is it, right? And so picture like a table full of like those brandy snifter glasses that they use at the distillery, which is like not the official glass of tequila, but I love drinking them out of that. It's so much better out of that, I think.
I like those glasses, yeah.
I do too. So we had a table full of those, and it was kind of like push this across the table, like this is it, the one glass.
Yeah.
Got a couple liters, came back with it, and I really just started like tasting people. Like, what do you think? What do you think? And then I sat down and said, okay, now I need a business plan. Now I need to learn how do I get labels, and how am I going to do the label, and what's it going to look like and be called? And that was the 6 years.
Fun part.
That was the five to 6 years of work that took to get that done.
Did it ever, so having this relationship with the distillery, and the juice that you want, they obviously can replicate it, but taking so long to kind of work on that, did they say, man, Scott, we need you to put something down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, they did.
Okay. Yeah.
They called me, and they'd email me. Rocio, who I worked with, she was like my kind of liaison at the distillery. She would email me once every few months. How's it coming? How's it looking? What's going on? And eventually, when I figured out the name, I told them the name, and she called me up after maybe a couple years in and said, hey, someone is trying to register a similar name with CRT. Oh, shit. Whether they really were or not, I don't know.
Right.
They might have just tried to force my hand.
Yeah.
They go, we need something. Like, you got to put something.
Gesture of good faith.
Call my wife, and I said, we got a certain amount of money in savings. And I said, can we pull, and I don't know, it was $8,000 or something out? Yeah. I said, can we invest this as kind of a good faith to buy some product, kind of in advance?
Yeah.
So I did that. And they said, great, your name is locked in. You have it now at CRT.
Got it.
So they did that. And then, again, things would come up every few months, like, when's it going to start? And then they'd send me new samples. I blew through those 2 liters and needed more, and they'd send me more. And it was a lot, man. That first 1,000 cases was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's the word? Like painstaking.
Dude, it was like, okay, so the craziest story that happened during that, and there's a million things that happened,
Sure,
but one of the craziest things was my old bottle, which is, some people have an affinity for it. We changed it.
You mean the
old
it's
look.
the same kind of
Same
bottle, right? Yeah.
Same exact bottle. So I should say the label.
Got it. Yeah.
The original label, we had it done, and it's a applied ceramics type thing. It's not necessarily applied ceramics, but it's applied to the bottle. So it's not a sticker. We had a company that was doing it for us, and we had it all set. So we get my money together. I'm ready to order my bottles. We got our bottles on order, and they call me and they go, "Hey, you got a problem." The decorator that we used to do your bottles blew up. The plant blew up, exploded.
Literally blew up.
Literally exploded. And I went, "Well, so what do we do?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "Beyond that, we think that it was blown up. We think that it was like an
Where
insurance."
was the factory?
It is in Mexico. I don't even know what city it was in, to be honest with you.
Shit.
So we're a few months away from expecting to have product in a warehouse here in
Right.
Austin, right? And so I'm like freaking out. Vitro, now OI, changed names as you're aware probably. They said we got a place in Toluca that does cosmetology packaging for us. We think they might be able to do it, but we don't know. They got to retrofit their machines, and they start sending me sample bottles up, and I can show you some in a little bit.
Yeah,
They were horrible.
Horrible?
Color was off. Everything was spaced odd and
crooked.
And so I'm getting more nervous and more nervous. They're sending
talking the 2 months.
Yeah,
the
we're talking.
Why did you have that deadline? So what was 2 months? Was that investors said you had to be to market?
Well, it was more like everything was set up with the distillery. I had my warehouse I was paying rent on.
Oh, gotcha.
It was coming into we're getting in. We thought we were going to have them by summer, and now it's September and it's October, and now we're going, okay, we need these in before the year end. I want to have this product, and we've been telling stores that whatever.
Yeah.
So they finally got it close. So if you've seen the very first bottle we had, which I know you've seen it, but if you compare it to the ones that came after, it's a unique bottle. It's bright green.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
If you had the original bottle, we've never done those again. So we had 1,000 case run of those in Blanco of that bright green.
Yeah.
And the next run they got better. So that was kind of one of the. I mean, we had tons of those things happen. We've had lost trailers where they call me, we can't find your trailer. Oh, you just lost 1,000 cases of tequila. Right. Yeah, well, we know it's somewhere in the
On which
yard.
side?
It's been lost on both sides before.
Really?
Because they have those yards, they park it and then customs does their thing. So the trucks unload it and leave it. And then another truck picks it up and brings it across. They've lost trailers. They lost a trailer this last shipment and then for about 3 days, then found it. Yeah.
Talking like thousands upon thousands of cases of
stuff,
and it's heavy. It smells like a guy. You know what I mean? Like
you can't lose that.
How do you lose that?
Yeah.
That's the fun part of this industry is that you have this very valuable thing, the liquid, and people don't value it. They don't value it that way.
No.
Like, oh, it's just a container, right? They don't care about what's inside of it. It's toss that thing around and break bottles if they had to.
Oh, yeah.
They don't even care,
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing in Mexico, well, the state highways cost you more, but there's less chance of getting hijacked on a state highway, Scott. You might want to think about that. You get those emails and phone calls from Mexico, and they're like, okay, how much do I need to send you? Okay.
For you personally, when all was said and done and you had the first bottled out to market, how many times had you been down to Mexico at that point?
Oh my God, probably 4 or 5 times down.
Just back and forth.
Yeah, we're just going down there and checking in. And when I started working with La Cofradía, they were relatively small. I mean, they've been around a long time, but they had an office, a distillery, and that's it. And then now since then, they've grown. And with Constellation buying up Casa Noble, that actually helped us because my distillery was able to expand in other ways. Now, I tell people that our distillery uses traditional methods on a larger scale. Right. So, our capacity will never reach the capacity they can produce, but they still use stone ovens. They just use really big stone ovens and lots of them. They still use pot stills. They were just able to add more pot stills. They have copper line pot stills. Open fermentation. They just added larger fermentation tanks. So they've kept with the same methods they've always done. They've just done it larger. So it's really helped us. We've never had any scaling issues. And
consistency's been really good.
Consistency's been great, but I do go down there for all of them. They don't put anything in a bottle or anything in a cask until I go down and try it.
Got it.
Just because I can't get, I get 2,000-3,000 cases of product here and it's wrong. I can't send it back, and then what? Then it's like on the shelf and it's like, that's not
dump
mine.
it and we'll redistill it for you.
Yeah, what do you do? Not like, I'm jealous sometimes of you guys where it's like, if you need more, you can go make more and you can literally taste it as you're working. And
that is one perk, for sure. But it is the volatility and then keeping something consistent, that's easier on a larger scale when you're small. It's a little bit hard to manage. But these cases out, so the first bottles hitting Austin, what was that month like? Was it before year end? Was this
November 1st
November 1st
of 2012.
Amazing.
Was my first. So my bottles arrived on like the 30th or 31st, right on Halloween.
Yeah.
And then I had my local liquor store, South Lamar Wine and Spirits, Pete in there. That's my store. Yeah, you know Pete.
Oh, yeah.
And anyways, I was just really beating him down for months and months. Hey, when it gets here, you got to buy it. When it gets here, you got to buy it. And finally, he's like, bring me a case. Fine. Whenever you get it, bring me a case.
Just shut up, Scott. Just give
exactly.
Me
Basically, yeah. That's basically how it went.
Yeah.
And then I had my distributor's license, if you recall, at the time, so I could self-distribute. So it showed up, and I brought, here's your case, Pete. So my first store, November 1st, was his. I took a picture and put it on Facebook and went, check it out, guys. Come and buy it.
Yeah.
And he sold through that case like that day, of course, because there's only place that had it.
Yeah,
so, it's easy to sell 12 bottles when you're in one store.
Yeah.
So he sold through a case that day, and I think maybe 2 more over the weekend or something. And so that started it. Wow. And then just from there, again, not knowing any better, I just called up the liquor buyers at Specs and said, I want to come talk to you. I want you to carry my tequila. And I'm finding out now that, there's other processes and ways to do that. I just did that. And
you just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Twin Liquors, same thing. I called them up and said, I want to talk to you guys about it. And I went in and pitched them, and they said, we'll give you 4 stores or 5 stores. And that grew. And then Specs, the same thing. We'll give you 2 stores. And they gave me more. And then on and on, it kind of grew from there. And then I was literally going into restaurants, bars, and retail stores. I would put on a button-down shirt or a branded shirt when I finally had T-shirts and jeans and a bottle. And I would walk into a store and go, hi, I'm Scott Willis. I own a tequila company. I would love to have it in your store. Would you like to try some? And that was my sales process.
Easy.
And I was doing it every free moment I had.
Yeah.
And it went from 3 or 4 stores to 50 to 100, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew. So,
what was the first kind of impression from the public? What was the feedback you're getting? Because this is the great part. This is you, right?
Yeah.
This is your fault. So if people love it, you're a success. If they hate it, it's
no, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, the feedback I was getting was great because the price was good.
Yeah.
They all liked the juice in the bottle. No one would tell me they didn't like the packaging at the time, but now that the packaging has changed, everyone's coming out of the woodwork, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad you changed it." And I'm like, wait, no one told me before. No one has really balls to tell you that stuff at the time, right? You don't call them, they're not really yes men because they don't owe you anything, but it's something
you're right,
they don't want to tell you bad news. They don't want to tell you. They're looking at you going, he probably loves this bottle. And I'm not going to say anything. Exactly. Yeah. So I was just learning a lot. And I didn't know. I knew sales, but I didn't know liquor business. Yeah. And so as you know, you go into a bar and you talk to a bartender and they say, oh, we love it. Well, we're going to bring it in this weekend. Yeah. And I went, done. There's a sale. Call my friends. Hey, go to so-and-so bar in East Austin. They'll have it this weekend. They all go. Hey, Scott is not here. He said he was going to bring it in. Why would he say that if he wasn't going to do it?
Right.
I was really learning the bar business and learning the retail business and learning that you got to follow up and you got to make sure they do it. And
especially when people are drinking, man.
Exactly.
That's a huge barrier. I mean, that's the one thing in the tech world you don't have to worry about. I mean, maybe besides lunch on Friday or something, right? But ultimately, when you're going to a bar, people are busy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a flaky industry at times, so people will say things and they'll never come through. But you're different now, I imagine. You're a different guy.
Yeah.
Are you more hardened now? Is that?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, the industry will harden you up quick, and you start learning. Like, we say, and I've heard your podcast. I know we can curse on this, so
sure, yeah.
I always tell my guys, I'm like, they don't give a shit.
They do not.
They don't.
Shit, no.
We're not keeping the lights on at Twins and Specs and the big chain restaurants. We're not keeping the lights on.
Right.
The big brands are keeping the lights on. The Patrons of the world and for a retail store, the Jack Daniels of the world, they're keeping the lights on. So we have to push and we have to be on top of mind all the time. If let's say the Patron rep or Espolon rep or whatever, if he has to go to that restaurant, once a quarter, we got to go twice a week.
That's right. Yeah.
If we want to have that menu spot,
yeah.
and if we get on the menu and we don't follow up, they'll come in and get us off the menu really quickly.
Sure.
And when you start ruffling feathers of those big brands, they've got the money to put you away pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to pick our spots and choose our spots and try not to piss other brands off and try not to. We're not quote unquote stealing menus, but we do try to find a good fit where we can. And I'm learning that and having experienced guys. I hired 2 guys who have way more experience than I do in the business. Yeah. Which Clayton Christopher from Deep Eddy, who's kind enough early on to give me a little bit of time and answer some of my questions. He said that early on. He said, "Don't be afraid to hire someone who knows more than you."
That's what you have to do.
It can be an ego thing. You're an entrepreneur, and you kind of. I think the cliche thing of an entrepreneur is like we feel like we know everything. That's why we're doing this. But I mean, like I said, I got 2 guys in that room over there who have more experience than I do.
Well, it's a matter of knowing what the right thing is to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't know how to get there. And that's where you bring in the people that do know how to get
Yeah.
there. You know, I mean, that's the thing, and maybe that's the line where you can feel like your still ego is involved with it as a CEO. Or
well, my name is on the bottle now, so I do feel really.
That's right. It says Willis Tequila. If I would know.
On the back, it says Scott Willis now in the story on the back of the new packaging. Well, that was, I have to say this. So we worked with Butler Brothers on the rebranding.
Yeah.
You know, they looked at my website, the original website, and they were like, okay, what are you about? You've got 5 things. Consumers can't comprehend 5 things. Yeah. You got to narrow this down and give them a couple things to focus on. And so they said, look, we like the idea that is your story. We like that idea. And also, it's an inexpensive idea. What I mean by that is you don't need a big marketing budget to sell a story to somebody of a person. Right. And selling a person on a brand, I think from my marketing background, I think that it gives ownership. In a lot of ways at Tito's, right? So when Tito's first started, it was this 6 degrees of separation with Tito, 7 degrees, where it's like, you know, everybody knew somebody who knew a guy who knew Tito. Right. I was in a bar with a guy. Tito was at the bar back then, at least. Now it's you know, different deal anywhere. But that was the thing, and I thought, okay, that's how you, in my mind, that's how you can really be successful without a big budget. Right. Is create ownership with the consumer, and ownership is they want to hang out with you. This is a guy I can. This is a tangible person here. He's in South Austin. He's a real person who started this brand, and this is his thing. And so they said, let's put your name on the bottle. Let's do that story. And so try to not sound egotistical when I was sharing with my team here, kind of how we're going to talk about the new branding going forward. And I said, look, this isn't an ego move. You know, this is about our brand and about telling the story of the brand. Absolutely. You know, and we don't have the budget to go dollar for dollar, slick marketing billboards with some of the other big brands, even some of the local brands who are bigger than us. We can't do that. Yeah, but it's, you know, I think of ROI on that stuff all the time. It's like, yeah, let's drop 30 grand on a billboard. You know what? Fucking gin or fucking tequila that is, dude. Yeah, ridiculous. So just get out on the streets. I know, right? Just get out and meet the people. You could hire for $30,000 billboard. You could hire a sales rep for like a year almost, right? You know, maybe bonuses in whatever, maybe more, but I mean, roughly. It's a different industry, and I think you and I being younger and kind of more on that wave of technology, which is a cheap thing that gives you a competitive advantage if you use it right. You know? Right. And it's totally free. I mean, this is one of the things, and so when you talk about marketing budgets and branding and all that, there's lots of tools at our disposal. So now here we are. You've been to market, you said roughly 4 years. 4 years November, The Blanco was the first, the Repo was the second. Yep. And then third now. And I haven't, is it here in your hot little hands yet, the Anejo? It's over there. I got a couple bottles over there. Yeah, it's out. So good. So the same way with the Reposado the first time we did it is I put it down to age, and then while it was aging, things developed in the company that caused us to grow. Right. So by the time it gets here, there's never enough. The Reposado, the first time we did it, I put down a certain amount, and then here we are 6 or 7-ish, 8, 9. It was 9 months later, actually, we finally got it. But down the road, things had grown. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I didn't put down enough. Well, the Anejo was kind of the same thing. I put down 500 cases over a year ago without, I wasn't with Republic Distributing yet. I didn't hire, some of my new guys, my new VP sales or my sales rep. Things hadn't happened yet. So now with, the angel share and all that, we pulled out 350 cases. Oh man, yeah. And so what we decided is we're like, look, we're going to push this as, hey, we have it, when we have it, we have it. When we don't, we don't. So buy it up now, and we'll have more next fall. Yeah. So we put down some more ready to age for next fall. But
and that's 80, all the 3 products are at 80 proof, right?
Yes, correct. We're going to keep them all at 80.
Is there a flavor that you lean towards more? Do you like kind of the new style, the Joven style, or do you like the Anejo?
I like the Blanco's always my favorite. Yeah. Because I like that real robust agave punch. I love that. I love that full flavored thing. I think it's so good. And then as you're drinking it, it develops more. For me, and this varies from tequila to tequila, but some of the aged stuff to me, when you start drinking it, it's I don't want to say it's one note, but when I'm drinking my Blanco, as the glass goes down, I'm picking up more and more and more and more out of it. Right. And what I'm tasting on that first sip or second or third sip of an aged product, sometimes, by the bottom of the glass, I'm still getting that. Now, it could be amazing, and that's great that you're getting the same thing, but I feel like the Blanco just develops and changes, and that's just a personal preference. Totally I like other brands' Blancos better. It's not just mine. I mean, I like, just that full flavored one. Now, our Anejo is incredible. So it actually does, you think it captures both the newness and the crispness of agave while also having that cream in it. You can taste that it's and I tell people this all the time, you can tell that it's our Blanco in all 3 representations. Well, obviously the Blanco, you can tell because it's Blanco, but in the Repo, you can tell that it's, my Blanco was put in a barrel. It wasn't, hey guys, we need some of your Reposado La Cofradía. Right. It actually was my Blanco, and you can tell, you can taste that. It's your vision with different lenses. That's which is the coolest part about it. And I tell everybody too, when you're doing a tasting of any tequila, you should start with the Blanco every time, because that's what the distiller's trying to do. Everything else is what kind of barrels, how was it blended, what were the, how the temperatures changed. There's so many other things that come into that, and there's a different art there.
Yeah.
The art in producing a Blanco is one art. The art in making an aged tequila is a totally different art. Thing.
But if you didn't, that's again the lovely piece of it is you were on the hook. This is your vision. Luckily, over time, it stands up as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because we didn't know. I was trying the Anejo for a long time and not, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready.
Yeah.
I went down to bottle my last batch of Blanco in the new packaging, and they brought out the samples and the cask strength of the Anejo. I was like, I leaned over to Chris, my new VP of sales, and I said, man, we should bottle cask strength. This is so good. Yeah. And he was like, no, we got to stick with that 80 proof. Okay, right, you're right. We got to stick with our thing, which is 80 proof. We're not, there's already 100 proof out there, and we're not doing that.
So that brings up a good point. A couple of things, being in this agave industry, you're part of the conversation now, and the conversation's an interesting one and a difficult one at times. We talk about sustainability. So like the last two things I kind of want to talk about. One is sustainability. So big companies that buy 3-year-old agave just to get it off the market so that other folks can't even get access to it.
Yeah.
What do you feel your responsibility, if any, is in that process of either replanting, making bat-friendly agave, those kinds of things?
Yeah, so I had a discussion with my my distillery about this, and they're trying to get the bat logo. They're trying to get that thing where there's a bat-friendly. I asked them about it, and I said, or is this something you're working on? And being the kind of the forward-thinking distillery that they are, that is something they've been exploring for some time. Now, if you don't know about Mexico, what they've done with this IVA tax with IMEX. So this IMEX is this new thing that came along where now they charge an extra tax on top of everything, which affects me because I pay more per bottle, and it affects the distillery. When all that started, they were forced to put resources on figuring out IMEX and getting all that done. So they kind of pulled away from that. But it is something that they're looking at doing. They do have select fields that are doing that. Now, obviously, you lose some yield because you got to let some of them flower.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think long term they have to.
Yeah.
You can't do this forever. It's going to take one big plague to just wipe it out, and everyone knows it's not an if, it's a when, because you can't keep cloning and cloning and cloning, So, from my standpoint, that I work with a distillery that I don't own, for me, it's more of a suggestion. It's a request.
Right.
If
you can't tell them really.
I can't, if I got large enough, if I was on the scale of like a Casa Noble and I was that level with them, I could probably force their hand a little more. But the fact is, I've expressed it to them, and they're on the same page because it's their livelihood. Yeah. This distillery was started by the gentleman that a guy I work with was started by his father. So it's their family business. Now I work primarily with the son, and they run it as a family. The sister works there. They all work there. So they care about it, and they really care about the industry, and they care about the agave. So they want it to happen. They want it the right way.
It's just a matter of time, I guess.
It's a matter of scaling your business and figuring out how much can we afford to let flower? How can we do this the right way for long-term growth, right? And they own a lot of agave fields on their own. So from the perspective of, or the risk of another brand buying up agave and us not getting, we don't buy other people's agave. They own their own fields, which is the beauty of working with kind of a mid to large distillery where we are. We're not tiny, we're not huge. We're kind of in that middle ground where they've got quite a bit of their own fields. They're not going to run out. They got the capacity to produce a lot. So that helps me as a small brand, tack on my 1,000 cases at the end of that 20,000 case Casa Noble run you did, right? When you're done with theirs, do mine. Done on the same equipment. Yeah. They got plenty of agave because they have to, because they're producing this other larger brand.
But you reap a lot of the benefits of this.
I do. And I'm not afraid to talk about the fact that they do produce, other brands or larger brands.
No, and they have to. We're not. Nobody should be green to that. Much like people shouldn't be green to the fact that like tequila's not made in Texas.
I get that question a lot
all the time, man. People just don't understand that. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's born. The culture of Tequila 512 is here and deeply nestled within Austin. The music, the flip flops, the shorts, right?
Exactly.
But then maybe that's what counts. And then you talk about the story being more about you, right? Yeah. Not egocentrically, but just because that's a great story to tell.
Yeah,
you're an Austin guy. You've been here a long time. You when you came, it was still cool, right?
It was cool. It was cool when you got here too.
Yeah,
yeah. That's the whole premise is we've tried to really be open and transparent about. Patron put up the CRT search on their website or the nom search, and we try to be as transparent as possible. On the website, we say Luis Trejo makes this. I don't make it. I'm not down there in the agave fields, and I'm not in the distillery working on every batch. And I think consumers are smart enough now where you should just tell them the truth. Like, look, this is my taste profile that I like, that I chose, and I hope you like it too. And by the way, it won a big award and et cetera, et cetera. Give it a try. It's a good price point. It's a guy named Scott Willis from Austin, Texas that goes down there and tastes it, but I don't make it. Why do I have? Yeah, I mean, if you want if your criteria for buying a product, any kind of spirit, is that the guy that is selling you the product actually put his hands on the product and produced it himself. Yeah. You can do that, but you've got a very limited selection.
It's not a lot of stuff to market.
Yeah.
Well, and so speaking of marketing, this is my last question because I see some interesting trends. Now, because tequila, and as it expands to mezcal and sotol and the other kinds of agave spirits, even though sotol is not agave. But anyway, I think that people were going to want more niche stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be weird or hard to get, but still strength is something that is becoming quite popular. So Willis has this still strength tequila 110, Tapatio 110. Yeah. Some Fortaleza's got one. Oh yeah, dude, all these things.
Tapatio 110 is really good.
Oh man, it helps you experience agave in a way that you never have before. I know you mentioned 80 proofs your game, but even in a more limited capacity, are you going to explore any of that extra añejo, the still strength kind of version?
I think it would be cool if we can get like a grip on what we're doing now, because obviously the new packaging. Yeah. So new packaging, new location, new distributor, new employees. That's all within about 3 or 4 months, right? So right now, and then Anejo with a third product coming out. Really just trying to get a handle on what we're doing now. Yeah. I would love to do some stuff. My distillery can do some really cool stuff. They have different types of barrels we could choose. We could do some wine barrels. We could do we could do some really interesting things. And I think my label now, we could really play with it. And we talked about what if we did a black stripe instead of the yellow, and that was like maybe we do 110 at something. We discussed it.
So we've got
some cool things we could do. It's just a matter of, again, getting a grip on what we got, getting everything kind of locked in, and then we say, okay, let's add something. Let's do maybe one run of 50 case, a little tiny run of something really neat.
I think there's a market for it, but you're right. You got to really like walk and be able to sustain a business, and if everything's changing, you're not even going to know if anything worked yet for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make sure this guy's doing his job, this other guy's doing his job.
Yeah.
The market is growing how I thought it would.
Yeah, and tequila, I mean, as you pointed out, people are getting, as they get more educated, you get people who are even moving on from tequila and there's sotol and mezcal and other things. People that are even moving on from mezcal. They're,
Bacanora,
people are pushing it forward and forward and forward. I mean, my, South Lamar Wine and Spirits. I mean,
Pete's got so much stuff.
He used to have, one sotol and maybe a mezcal or two. Yeah. He's got a whole rack of
one of the best selections in the city, man, if not the best one.
And that shows you right there what's happening, So what we've really tried to focus on doing is being, not to sound too marketing, but our slogan, perfect anytime tequila. So we want to be kind of more of a go-to tequila. Yeah. And if we want to do some unique one-offs and things, they will be one-offs. There are enough people out there that'll do in these unique, whether it's a unique bottle or it's a unique proof or a unique, type of spirit, like the mezcal. What's the mezcal with the chicken?
The pechuga.
Yeah, pechuga. One of those more unique,
obscure, esoteric. Yeah,
they need to be out there, and I think they're really good for people to try. But that's advanced. I tell people all the time. They ask me what the difference in mezcal and tequila, and I say, well, tequila is mezcal. It's just produced in a way that uses 100% blue agave or 51%.
Right.
So I try to explain to them in the way like whiskey and bourbon, that comparison. Mm-hmm. So I tell them, if you look at if you want to compare tequila and mezcal, I tell them it's like, look at, maybe a bourbon compared to a scotch.
Right.
Same
kind of core ingredients, but
those really peaty scotches, and you get that smokiness that really, to me, that's a little more advanced.
Right.
I can pour someone a glass of a decent bourbon and pour like one of those really like Lafray or like a really peaty scotch next to it, and they'll smell that and go, wow, that's like a campfire. It's intense. And I tell people mezcal. Mm-hmm. Some are different, but in general, I think of those as it's more advanced agave drinking.
Yeah, it totally is.
You got to be ready for it.
Do you like being part of this conversation? I mean, that's kind of the question I'll leave you on. But agave group, the community is huge, but the people that are actually importing, the people that are actually making and selling agave spirits, is pretty small.
Yeah, I do. I know more people in other spirits brands than I know in the tequila world. You've got Pepe and some of those guys. I mean, I know them in passing. We don't hang out, talk. But the goal, I think, the goal with this brand, at least, obviously is more case sales, but the goal is to be in the conversation. And not only be in it, but be a part of it, be a bigger part of it, right? A
seat at the table. Right?
Like when someone, whether it's someone writing an article for the Statesman or whether it's, someone going to a party, I want people to go, what's that tequila from Austin?
Right.
Be one of those that they think about.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the only one. Be one of them, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas I remember for years and years reading articles, and they would talk about, I would be reading about some of these other brands that have been around and going, why didn't they think of me? Why didn't Tequila 512 come? And now we're beginning to start to come up kind of organically in some of those talks and conversations. So it's
people
good.
are thinking about you, Scott, and people are thinking about Tequila 512. So it's been great finally getting to hear the story, getting to chat, and I can't wait to try the Anejo, and we'll have to make that happen at some point. Thanks so much for chatting with me, Scott.
Thanks for coming to the Casita.
Yeah, dude. Brilliant place.
Thanks.
Bachelor Pad, thank you. So there we have it, Mr. Scott Willis of Tequila 512, a brilliant tequila in the spirit of Austin, the new headquarters / casa / bachelor pad there on First Street is just incredible. Brilliant floors, brilliant house, and it's just filled with tequila and tequila apparati. Not exactly sure. The Blanco, the Reposado, and the Anejo are all wonderful spirits to add to the narrative in Austin, to add to the narrative of spirits culture in Texas as well. And honestly, to get the insight and hear all pieces of how to develop a business, a tequila business, no less, is really insightful. And thanks so much, Scott, for sharing. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V. No matter how many Hallmark Christmas movies you've watched this season and feel guilty about it, or if you're really anticipating watching the Westworld finale that clocks in just around an hour and a half, please keep dancing.